What is going on, everybody? We are here for episode 5 of Talking Sports, with the man, the myth, the legend, Mirf. How we doing today, Mirf?
Doing good, brother, man. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, It's a good time for sports right now, NBA or NFL draft just happened. NBA playoffs are going on, which, I think that's what we're actually going to start with today. We're going to talk a lot of NBA. We're going to first start off, little new thing. We're going to try Poeltl. This will be mine and Murph's first time ever doing it. So, and for those you don't know, a green means it's correct, whether that's the number, inches, years. Yellow means they currently played for that team at some point, they played with that team at some point, but currently aren't on that team. Same with position, it includes a partial match, so I'm guessing that means a two-way player. And then yellow, another is within 2 years, where that's inches, years, number, all that. So, you ready to get this going, Murph? Who do you want to go for with first, Murph? You give us our NBA player.
Like, who do I want to choose?
Yeah, we got to do our first guess. Who do you want to be our first guess?
Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy Butler. Okay, so he's a forward in the East, but he's not in the Southeast Division. And he's a smaller number than 22, and he's less than the age of 33. So he's in the East, not in the Southeast. Let's see here. Oh, sorry, chat. Didn't mean to do that. Hey, what's up, legend? Okay. So who should we go with? How about who? So it's got to be a forward.
Right.
Maybe Jaylen Brown? Or no, not.
Well, that's a good guess.
Why is it? Am I spelling his name wrong? Oh, there it is. Yep, spelling it wrong. Okay. So he's 6'6". He's younger than 26. He's between the number of 2 and 7, and he is not in the Atlantic. So he's somewhere in the Southeast Division. Or no, he's somewhere in the Central Division. So Bucks, Cavs, Bulls, Pacers, or Pistons.
Who's the forward for the Bucks?
Bucks have Giannis. They have Middleton. But I think he's older than 26. Maybe Cunningham?
You could try him.
Why? Cade Cunningham. Let's just see. Okay, so they are a Piston. Okay, Cade Cunningham's a guard. So we are on the Pistons. He's 6'6". Oh, God. Piston players. And he's older than 21, but younger than 26.
And he's a
wait. So he's
forward, right?
Yeah, he's got to be. So he's either 25 or 24, and he's a forward, and he's got to be and he's 6'6".
Who's a Pistons forward, bro? I don't even know.
I'm trying to think. Marvin Bagley? Is he that? Maybe Marvin Bagley.
Isn't Marvin a power forward?
I don't know if this is, but forward. I don't know if that's considering. I think that's considered small forward and bit power forward.
Let's try Senior Bagley. Let's see what happens.
Oh shit. Okay, so he's 24. So he's the same age as Marvin Bagley. Um, hmm.
Oh, we're getting so close.
I know. We're almost there. We're on guess 5. Um, hmm. I don't know.
Who is this? Forward for the freaking Pistons.
And he's between number 7 and 22. Hmm.
What's that? That guy's fucking name? Something Ivy or something like that.
Ivy. Said I don't know Piston players.
I don't know.
There's Isaiah Stewart, but I don't think that he would fit. Maybe there's 2 Isaiahs.
His name starts with a J. His first name starts with a J. I just can't, like Jason Ivy or.
Oh, got it. Isaiah Livers. I had to look up their roster because I need players. I just need to know positions. So we kind of cheated at that, but hey, we got him 5. We got it all the way down to the Pistons. We figured it out. So.
Did it.
But we used a little help, but that's our first time, We're going to get better. We're going to, I just have a hard time with all the, like, if I don't know the star players, I hear names, I'm like, oh. So, but, still, first good one. So, Chad, if we're planning on doing Poeltl too, the NBA or NFL version of this as well, so stay tuned in for that. But this is pretty fun, it's a little kick on to Wordle, so. Now, chat, we are going to switch over the webcam here. We're going to talk NBA playoffs. So, from the first round, we had Denver take care of Minnesota. We had the Suns beat the Clippers. The Warriors and the Kings went to Game 7. The Lakers showed John Morant that he is not fine in the West. The Bucks got upset by the Heat. The Knicks beat the Cavs. Sixers with who is MVP Joel Embiid leading the charge, and they beat the Nets. And then you had the Celtics beating the Hawks. So we got Nuggets, Suns, Lakers, Warriors, Heat, Knicks, Sixers, Celtics. So, based off that first game, the Nuggets, the Suns got to be worried, in my opinion. The Nuggets beat them pretty handily. But, that Suns team, though, it has a lot of firepower. You got Chris Paul, you got Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. I think that's going to be a good series. But, the Nuggets have a very, very deep roster as well. And they got Jokic, who's an MVP on their has been MVP on their side. They got Jamal Murray. They got a good team. Who do you think's going to come out victorious on that one, Mirf?
I don't know. It's hard to say because Joker is crazy. He I've seen a bunch of highlights of the season where he's come in clutch for his team a bunch of times, and he is a very, very different type of center. He's such a hybrid center because he can shoot threes, he can play the post, he'll back you down. Doesn't matter if it's your main big man, he'll back him down. If you can't back it down, he'll hit your little post fade away. There's kind of like no way to stop him. That's not to say Greg Ayton isn't a respectable player in his position. Greg Ayton's pretty big too, but I think also with the Suns adding KD to their roster, it's a pretty deadly combination. KD is notorious for being a certified shooter, and he's one of the best playmakers the NBA has ever seen, in my personal opinion. It's a tough call, and this might just be a little bit of bias because I'm a huge KD fan, but I think the Suns are gonna somehow pull it out. It's gonna be a tough fight, but I think personally the Suns are gonna win that series.
Yeah, I I think I got to go with the Nuggets. I know, and I think the only reason I'll say that is just KD's a great player, but KD has not been fully engulfed in the Suns. He got traded late and then wasn't able to, play for a little bit. So, he's definitely not fully associated with that team. They're still kind of learning how to play with him. I know they had some games, but they didn't have, as much as, the Nuggets played the whole thing and got the number one seed for a reason. I think it's gonna be a 6 or 7 game series, but I think the Nuggets are gonna take that one. Now we got the Warriors and the Lakers. I mean, personally, I want the Warriors to win. I'm not a big Lakers fan, but I mean, you got a matchup that you got used to seeing in the NBA Finals, the Warriors against LeBron, or that was with the Heat or with the Cavs. But now you got him on the Lakers. You got LeBron and AD going up against Clay and Steph, like two of the most, probably the best shooters in the entire NBA history, with Curry arguably being the best shooter of all time from a deep range. Um, I I know bias wants me to not pick Lakers, and I still don't think I think the Warriors are going to be able to pull that out. I think LeBron is not going to be able to manage the load of trying to carry them with the deadly shooters of Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. I think it though will be like a 6 or 7 game series as well.
I think the one thing the Warriors have consistently lacked is not a contact center, but a center who is reliable on not just taking charges and being the physical player of that team, like more so like a AD or like an old school DeMarcus Cousins, who if you're down late like 4 to maybe even 10 points, you can consistently give the ball to D-Mac, and he'll find a way to score. With AD being on the Lakers, and if he's completely healthy, AD's been kind of a 50-50 player this season. Sometimes he's a good week, sometimes he's a bad week. But playoff AD is a different AD, and of course you got LeBron, and you're completely 100% right about that. Of consistently seeing the Warriors, it's always the Steph Curry versus LeBron matchup every single, most of the times that's what we see. And I completely agree with the load of Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. They're the Splash Bros for a reason. And Steph Curry, just I think it was this last week, he had a clutch three from closer to like half court, which won them the game, and he started going crazy as a celebration. And it's gonna be a tough series, man. These are some really good matchups we got for the playoffs this year.
I agree. So we got that going on, and then flipping over to the East side, we got the Heat versus the Knicks. The Heat upset the Bucks in the first round. Which they had to be in the play-in, and they ultimately end up actually, falling to only being the 8th seed instead of going in as they were the 7th. But I mean, the Heat are a good team. They got freaking Jimmy Butler, who's just can be unconscious. They got Kyle Lowry. They got a good, solid overall team. But then you got the Knicks, are up and coming. They got Jalen Brunson. They got, a lot of young talent. Who do you think's going to win that one?
I think the Heat is going to take it because playoff Jimmy is going crazy. And, I mean, he's out there each and every game giving it his literal all to an extent where the man is literally on the verge of passing out on the court. He can't even make it back to the locker room. And, I mean, 3 games back-to-back with 40-plus points, maybe even – I know he had a 51-point game. I think he had like a 49-point game. Jimothy is going absolutely insane, and he's him, man. I'm telling you, Jimmy Butler is him. So I think the Knicks don't really have too much going on. they're a pretty solid team. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't think that there's anybody really on the Knicks roster who's going to be able to stop Jimmy Butler in the way that he coordinates his team.
Yeah, and I would agree. I know the Heat didn't come in as a high seed, but Knicks don't really have a lot of players. I feel like that have that experience where the Heat have a lot of players with that NBA playoff experience, especially too. You upseed the number one seed. I know anything can happen, but that gives you a lot of momentum and a lot of boost kind of going into the playoffs and especially expanding. So I think the Heat are going to take that one. And then I think this is, again, one of the better matchups too. We got the Sixers against the Celtics. In my opinion, I think the Celtics are going to take them. Tatum and Brown are just a great duo. The Celtics got some good players. I'm not saying that Sixers got Embiid and they got Harden, but I just think the Celtics have a little more depth to them, and I think that Tatum is going to kind of help lead them to victory. But I think it will be a very tight series. I would say probably 6 games. What is your thoughts, Murph?
I think when you look at both of the rosters, they both kind of like simplified in a sense is that they have 2 star players on each team. You got Jaylen Brown and you have Jason Tatum. Then you've got Harden and you've got him. And this just might be my bias speaking, but me being a person who can respect a big man more so than a lot of people do, and they don't really give the big men the credit that they deserve all the time. But I think big men are, they'll win you the game for sure, and they'll be one of the main reasons why, you're up and about. Look at Cat. Look at Joseph Nurkic. I know he's not doing much, but still, you got Rudy Gobert, who's a solid defensive player. And Harden, as we all know, is a wild card, and he'll pull out and drop 40 on your head, and you won't even know what happened. So I don't want to say that I'm counting the Celtics out completely because, again, the Celtics is a great team. But I just think that their center won't be able to contain the MVP at all. And I don't think Jaylen Brown is going to be able to stop James Harden. I don't think so.
Well, I'm currently looking at the score real quick, just kind of see what the score was and knew they were playing tonight. Looks, unless Celtics have a utter meltdown, it looks like Celtics are going to take game 2 and tie the series 1-1. There's 6:30 left in the fourth quarter, and the Celtics are up 104-77.
Ooh.
So, Celtics came to play today. So, be interested.
Oh, yeah.
So, be interested to see, but that's the current score of that game right now, just as you're aware. Okay. So, based off all this, who are you gonna take out of the West, and who are you gonna take out of the East, Murph?
Give me the teams real quick, bitch, because I don't know my divisions that well.
So in the West, you have Nuggets, Suns, Golden State, or the Lakers.
I want to say, it's gonna be Golden State for sure, because they make it every single year. They're like the Patriots of the NBA.
Then in the East, you have the Heat, the Knicks, the Sixers, and the Celtics.
I think it'll be anywhere from the Suns or the Sixers. What about you, Vish? What do you think?
So from the Western Conference, I'm gonna I think the Nuggets, as long as they can handle the business, I think they're gonna be able to take on whether that's the Warriors or the Lakers, whichever one wins that. In the East, I think it's gonna be. I'm saying Celtics are gonna beat the Sixers, and I think that's gonna be the team that beats either the Heat or the Knicks. So I'm gonna go. I will probably go Celtics against Nuggets, and out of that matchup, I think. Oh, it's hard because they both got some players. I think though I'm gonna go Nuggets. I think they have the deepest team think they're gonna
Okay.
ride the 1 seed and take it all the way.
We will see. Hopefully our predictions are right, man.
Yeah.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, we will see. We will see. Chat, let us know what your thoughts are on our predictions, and let us know what your thoughts are. So now we're gonna move on. How much turbulence you got? Is it coming through? I don't know why it's coming through so bad. Sorry, chat. Let's 1 sec. Okay. No, audio is good. Okay. So, now we're going to go and talk about, sorry about that, technical difficulties. We're going to move on to talking about, we talked about him a little bit earlier, but Jimmy Butler, helped the Heat upset the Bucks, had, multiple 40-point games, was playing really well. What's your thoughts on Jimmy Butler, Murph?
Jimothy Butler has always been one of my favorite players. Used to be a big Heat fan back when it was Wade, LeBron, Bosh, Mario Chalmers and them, and I think he's always been doing a great job. He's really carried his weight. He's a great floor general in a sense. He can really coordinate his players and tell them exactly what they need to be doing, where they need to be, and he assigns the roles. So he's a great leader for that team. And especially as of recently, the way he's been playing is giving it his all, and I love that from a player like Jimmy Butler. I think he deserves that, and I would genuinely love to see him, go to the finals. Especially how hard he works, because it breaks my heart. Like the Donovan Mitchell situation we talked about a couple of episodes ago, where you work so hard, you drop 40 points to try and get your team somewhere safe, and it's just a difference of 2 points that made the whole thing, and that really hurt, because you can sympathize with these guys. They go crazy all these playoff games just to get nowhere, and Jimmy Butler is him. He's really him.
Jimmy Butler definitely comes out. It's interesting, a couple years ago that Sixers were talking about he's like was their demise, and he had that there's that whole story about him coming to practice, playing with the threes, and beating his starters. But yeah, it's interesting. He definitely puts in the work. Jimmy Butler has never been a guy to kind of shy away. I always think about his Bulls days. It's kind of like he's still on the Bulls because he's still wearing the red and the white. But it's for him. He's a good player. You'd be one definitely wouldn't mind winning an NBA championship. But yeah, we'll see kind of what he can bring. If he can continue that, the Heat are definitely going to be a hard team to beat. They got a pretty good roster. They got Kyle Lowry, who knows how to win an NBA title. Won one in with Toronto. They got some good players, so it'll be interested to see. What they can do. They got Tyler Hero too, and a couple of good players. And Jimmy Butler just helped them kind of go over top, as well as Kyle Lowry. So like I said, it'll be interesting to see what he can do, and if he can put up those games, continue to put up those games, definitely make an impact.
Agree, Rich. I agree 100%.
Now, kind of, we're still talking NBA. We talked about, the Lakers. Talked to, John Morant was saying he was fine in the West. Then the Lakers came in, and took them down. And there was one guy fully talking, one guy talking all the time, and that was Dylan Brooks. He was calling out LeBron, saying he was old and all this, and then they started going down. And next thing you know, you don't hear anything from Dylan Brooks. He's escaping the media. I mean, it's crazy. He was one of those guys, tries to bring up I am him, and then next thing you know, he is getting jumped and doesn't want to comment on anything because he doesn't want to talk to the media. But he was the one starting the narrative. It wasn't like LeBron was starting the narrative. He was the one that started the talking, and LeBron put up his talk, and then next thing you know, he wasn't willing to talk back after he got shredded. But yeah, so what's your thoughts on Dillon Brooks?
I think Dylan Brooks is like that all bark no bite type of player, and you have players like LeBron who already are certified goats, but not even just that. In the statute of saying the fact that LeBron is not a trash talker. Dylan Brooks said something like, "Oh, I poked the bear. I'm never scared of the bear." Well, buddy, you poked the bear, and you said you got to drop 40 on me to put some respect on your name. And LeBron dropped, what was it, 30 points and 20 assists and like 15 rebounds or something like that. Like, yeah, I don't know what was going through Dylan Brooks' head to try and amp LeBron up, and we know what that does when you amp LeBron up. You can be a LeBron hater all you want. You can say X and Y are better than LeBron, but at the end of the day, if you're going to talk mess to LeBron, he is going to make you shut up. There's no other option around it. LeBron is one of the best players to ever play the game. And I think LeBron was like, all right, kid, you want me to show you that? And he showed it to him. And I agree with the fact that you were talking so loudly, you were barking so loud. And then when it came down time for you to get your pieces off your chest, you're like, oh, I'm not going to show up to media day. I'm just going to, not be there. I refuse to make any comments.
Yeah.
It's kind of like now you're scared because you poked a bear and the bear bit you. And what are you going to do now? It's a bear. It's LeBron, buddy. He was crazy for that.
He poked the bear and dipped. He said, poke, and ran away, knowing that bear was charging at him. But yeah, it's it's interesting, I know it's, in this short amount of time this season, kind of some of his plays earlier in the year, he became, wasn't really talked about to being talked about as a dirty player, and then, starts making comments to kind of get his name up. So it's interesting. I mean, he's becoming a free agent, and Grizzlies already saying that they will not re-sign him under any circumstance, so it's interesting, you make all this talk and everything like that. You go from having a potential NBA career, to, maybe not even having one now. You talk too much, it's potential, that talk, maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was other things that he was doing. I don't know. But to have the team already come out a couple days after you lose and say, we are not re-signing you no matter any circumstance. I mean, that doesn't look good for you. And, you think of dirty players and stuff like that. And, I also think of like Grayson Allen, they do stuff and then it's, oh, poor me. Like, everyone's talking about me and they do something, but it shouldn't be about them. And I feel like Dillon Brooks is the same. You start talking, you start doing something, and then you're, trying to act like Mr. Tough Guy. And unfortunately, and I don't know what these players go through, but, if you're going to talk like that, you got to be willing to talk up and fess after you are wrong. And, and some of these players, you can't do it. Their egos aren't allowed them. But, at the end of the day, it's those good players that are able to kind of show, hey, I made a wrong mistake. He is a good player. My actions were not right or whatever. And, kind of, thinking about, talking about this, situation, going to the other side of losing, you have, Dillon Brooks, who did not say anything, to, you go to Giannis, who, did say stuff. Let's show you this little clip here of Giannis after losing in the first round. Let me switch over here.
I just asked Bud the exact same question, but I'm curious for you. Do you view this season as a failure?
Okay, because I'm not that. You asked me the same question last year, Eric. Okay, do you get the promotion every year in your job? No, right? So every year you work is a a goal, right? Which is to get a promotion, to be able to take care of your family, to be able, I don't know, provide a house for them or take care of your parents. You work towards a goal. It's not a failure. It's steps to success. You know, and if you've never, I don't want to make it personal. So there's always steps to it. You know, um, Michael Jordan played 15 years, won 6 championships. The other 9 years was a failure. That's what you're telling me. I'm asking you a question. Yes or no? Okay, exactly. So why are you asking me that question? It's a wrong question. There's no failure in sports. You know, there's good days, bad days. Some days you are able to be successful. Some days you're not. Some days it's your turn. Some days it's not your turn. And that's what sports is about. You don't always win. Some other people's gonna win. And this year somebody else is gonna win. Simple as that. We're gonna come back next year, try to be better, try to build good habits, try to play better, not have 10 days stretch with play bad basketball. You know, and hopefully we can win a championship. So 50 years from 1971 to 2021 that we didn't win a championship, it was 50 years of failures? No, it was not. It was steps to it, you know, and we were able to win one. Hopefully we can win another one. You know, sorry that I didn't want to make it personal because you asked me the same.
Okay, Murph, what is your thoughts on Giannis's little talk after their loss in the first round?
I think Giannis did great, especially in my opinion as a future Hall of Fame player. You know, I think he handled it very, very well. And I know he kind of got a little irritated with the guy or with the reporter or whoever it was at the end there, but he was making solid points. And at the end of the day, when you're in sports, there really is no losses. Like, yes, on paper it says a loss, but as somebody who's played a wide variety of sports their whole lives, you know, there isn't ever a loss. You take an L, and L doesn't stand for loss; it stands for lessons, and that's kind of what he was preaching to this person. And I genuinely and thoroughly enjoyed that. That was a very mature thing of him to do, and it was a very respectable thing for him to do as well. So it was really cool to see that, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, and I think it's good, you know. I work a lot in sports around a lot of athletes, you know, and yes, they're, you know, especially after you lose, it's frustrating. Whether that's in the first round, whether that's you didn't even make the playoffs, you know, it is frustrating, you know. And I can see how, you know, you want to say that season is failure, but from an aspect, you know, there's also many positive things that happened in that season. You know, the Bucks were the number one seed in the East. That's you know an accomplishment right there. You were able to not only you know you got to beat every other East team to be that number one, but you know there's those win and loss days. There's days you have good games. There's days you have bad games. There's you know there's a team as a team you can have a really good game as a you know it's all about putting that together. And you know I feel like he did good. Yes, initially he kind of was going after the reporter, but you know after you lose too, you have a lot of frustration. He could easily just went off and said, you know, this question's stupid. Why are you even asking this? But, you know, he did give that good response. He turned it around, you know, even said to the guy, sorry, I didn't feel like I don't want to attack you. But, I mean, he put it straight. It's, you know, we all go to work and, you know, we go for a year. If we don't get a promotion, did we lose? Was our job a failure? No, it wasn't, you know. Sometimes just those promotions don't happen and everything like that, and you come back and you keep working and you go for it the next year. You know, you just don't give up and consider it a failure because you weren't able to. Yes, sometimes, you know, when you don't get those promotions, you do see them like a failure, but it's how are you going to show up after you have those, you know, those failures, those losses, you know, and and people say, you know, it's one game at a time. You know, during the season, it's not you're always looking towards the next game. You can think about the other game, but there's always so many more games coming up. And, you know, at the end of the day, too, in basketball and any sport, there's only one winner. There's 31 other losers and one winner. I mean, same in the NFL, same everywhere. There's only one winner. So eventually, at the end of the day, you either have to be the champ or you don't. And that's the thing. If you consider not winning the title a failure, then there's 31 teams every single year that are failures. And I mean, rightfully so. That's what you're trying to do. But again, there is good things and good things that can be said about the season. If you had a bad season and turned it around and all of a sudden make a late push to get the playoffs, you can consider that a win. You had the Thunder. Did they make? They made the play-in tournament, didn't make the actual playoffs though after the play-in tournament. But again, they're a young team. That is a win for that team. That the Thunder have kind of been down for the last few years, and they're slowly working their way up to becoming a team with a lot of young talent. Do they consider a failure that they didn't make it? Yes, but they made the play-in. They made it to where people didn't think they were going to be, and they worked really hard to try and get in. And they have a lot, and they know what they need to work on for the next year to kind of get them back in that position. And again, it's you had a Jimmy Butler that just went absolutely off during the Bucks, and sometimes just those players just have those moments. And no matter what you do, if you look at some of the games like Steph Curry has had in his year, you have people right in his shooting pocket, and he's still pulling up a 3/4 of the way jumper to seal the game. It's one of those things. One little tiny thing can kind of change the outcome. But yeah, again, at the end of the day, there's never any failures in sports. There's never failures. Yes, it seemed like a failure, but there's always the next year, and you're always building towards something, regardless if it's something very small or very big. And with Giannis at the helm, I think the Bucks will be in a good spot. They definitely could use maybe a few more like deep pieces, but Giannis is going to come back next year and do the same thing he's been doing this year, and hopefully coming back. But at the end of the day, too, he goes after Giannis saying, "Oh, well, failure of the season." As these stars, they get put so much pressure on them because if they don't perform, it's okay. It was their fault. It's the Bucks team as a whole, whether that's the coaches, it's the coaches, the players, everyone in that organization. It was everyone had a part into causing that loss. But because Giannis is the star, he's going to ask all these questions because he is supposed to be the guy that leads them. But at the end of the day, one man can't carry a whole franchise. You can. I know LeBron did a lot with Cleveland. He would carry them to the East with a lot of, players that weren't really that great. But at the end of the day, it's hard, especially with the amount of talent that's coming in the NBA, and these teams that are getting stacked with multiple players. It's getting harder and harder because the talent gap is slowly closing every day.
I agree, Vish. I agree. Like you said, it's an entire team, and at the end of the day, when you look at all these rosters, you see so many different players. So many different players on each and every single one of these teams. So at the end of the day, yes, he is the star player of the team, but all the responsibility doesn't fall on him because at the end of the day, it's a team. And when you play sports, they tell you this all the time. If we lose, you don't lose by yourself. We lose as a team. It's not you lost. No, we're a family. We're a brotherhood. This is how this works. If I take an L, that means you took an L. So again, and like you said, I understand that, and he says it in the interview that you asked me this question last year too. You're asking the same stupid question over and over again, expecting a different answer. That's not how this works. The guy is clearly and visibly very upset with what happened. But at the end of the day, like you said, there is only one winner, and facts are still facts, and what's written in black and white is still going to be written in black and white. One team is going to advance, and one team is going to have to go back home and start focusing on next year. And I completely agree with you with the whole thing of Giannis is that type of player that once he takes an L, especially off of the things that he just said, he's proving to us that he is the type of player to go into the lab and start working and start really picking apart on what's going on, what did I do wrong, what could I do better. And Giannis, as we all know, is the leader of that Milwaukee Bucks team. And I think he's going to do a fantastic job of coaching all these young talents that's coming in and even the veteran players to tell them to listen. These are your tendencies, and the one thing you did in a game X or game Y, you can't do that anymore because clearly that didn't work. And I need you to really start trying to do this, or I need you to start focusing on getting better at this. I really genuinely believe that with that response, Giannis has shown his maturity. He's shown his age and wisdom in the game of basketball. And I really did. I loved that. I loved seeing that from him.
Yeah. And in the NBA too, it's a lot of players. There is, if you look at it, NBA is considered the best basketball league in the entire world.
Right.
So you have 15 players on every team that are considered the best players in the world, or one of the and Giannis is considered one of the best, but usually you're in the top percentage if you're in the NBA. There's something that you do that makes you good enough to be on the NBA team, because there is, with basketball there is so many international leagues and stuff like that, that you can go play in. I have a bunch of former athletes that have played overseas, going to play overseas, everything like that, and it's for them it's a great opportunity. But at the end of the day, those NBA is the top of the top if you're there, and so there is 15 players on every team that are considered some of the world's best players in in an overall speaking, or in in the top 10% of basketball players in the entire world, and because there's a reason they're on those teams. So you're going up against a lot of talent every waking day. And you can't, at the end of the day, sometimes those other teams are gonna have great games. There's players that go off on a game that you weren't expecting. And these NBA seasons, they're very grueling. It's 82 games. I know there's kind of a lot more kind of load management and stuff like that going on than there used to be in the past, but still 82 games. That is a lot of games to be playing. And you start in late September, early November, and you're playing till June, and then you're going right back at it. It's a lot of toll on your body too, and sometimes your bodies just aren't able to physically go as much as you want. These athletes, they're eating a lot, they're paying millions of dollars just to, I can't remember what the number was, but I think at one point in time LeBron was spending like $1 million just on his body alone and just recovery, whether that's nutrition and hyperbolic chambers, all that stuff. But $1 million, so a lot of these players, they have to take care of their bodies. So I think that's a little bit too. Sometimes you just you've done everything you possibly can, and your body is just not able to fully put it together to kind of keep you going.
I agree.
But definitely, Giannis is definitely, he's been an MVP. He's definitely probably a future Hall of Famer. If you look at the pictures from him when he first entered the league to now, and just the mild muscle and size and everything he has gained is just incredible. But I definitely think he's going to help lead this Bucks team to great things. He already has. The Bucks used to be kind of a team you kind of talked about, but not really. And he has helped. Him, Middleton, Bledsoe. They've all helped kind of turn this Bucks organization around. If you would have probably told people 10 years ago, hey, the Bucks would have been the number one seed in the East, everyone kind of would have looked at you and be like, okay, cool. Yep, you don't know what you're like. It's it's some of those things, and it's, again, that's the NBA. It's always changing. You never know what's going to happen on a year-to-year basis. You have teams that all of a sudden have really good years you weren't expecting. As much as being a Jazz fan, the Jazz that, was it 2 years ago, were the number one seed in the West. No one would have predicted, Jazz to be the number one seed in the West, but that team put it together. Yes, did they win the championship? No, but that was a great season. No one was expecting them to be the number one seed. No one expected them to have the best record in the NBA. It wasn't a failure, no, but yes, it was, because they didn't make it, but it's not a full failure. There's those wins, there's losses, and it's how you react to those wins and losses that's going to determine on the success of your team moving forward.
Hey, TJ.
So I know you kind of want to talk a little bit about this. This is a little associated with the NBA, but Ben Simmons. I know you said Ben Simmons is kind of one of your guys. Unfortunately, his career has not really panned out like a lot of people were expecting. He's kind of gotten the Nets team kind of struggling some injury issues the last few years. But kind of what makes you like Ben Simmons so much?
The reason I like Ben Simmons so much is because just like with a lot of the other sports, I love physicality. And Ben Simmons was a point guard who could play all the way down to the three position, play great defense, and still effectively score on all three of those positions. And I really, really love that about Ben. And not even just to take it on a different route, I loved using him in 2K too because he was just a cheat code. And it just makes it so annoying to me that you had so much talent, you had such promise to be a great. But yeah, okay, cool, you can't shoot threes. No one cares. That's why you get players who can shoot threes because it's not again, it's a whole team. If this guy's amazing at driving the ball, especially since he was what 6'7", 6'8", something crazy like that. There weren't a lot of point guards who could really contest him or even put up some type of physical match against him. Maybe Kyle Lowry is a short guy who's short, stocky, and pretty strong. Or Russell Westbrook, but even then, he's still gonna blow by you. His ball handle, his skills, all day they would speak for himself. And now it's gotten to a point where Ben Simmons was used to be on House of Highlights every single night, or I would see Instagram highlights of him all the time, or on a TikTok or whatever. I don't hear anything about Ben Simmons anymore. It makes me kind of upset because I really, really, really enjoyed watching him play. That would be one of my main factors of watching basketball is knowing Ben Simmons was going to be playing, and I genuinely enjoyed watching him play the game of basketball. And again, like I said, one of my favorite players of all time is the legendary Superman D12. And he was one of the most physical players of his era, aside from Shaq. But that was one of the reasons why I really liked Dwight Howard because he would dunk on you. Didn't matter who you were. I remember the rivalry between him and Andrew Bynum was insane. Two of the biggest centers in the league at that time frame, and all they would do was just go at each other, just in the post, just boom. You're gonna eat this shoulder to your chest, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that was the type of vibe that Ben Simmons had. Was that nitty gritty? You can't stop me. I don't care if you have your center, your power forward, your small forward, everybody in the paint. I'm going to take this ball to the rack and I'm going to score. That was such a beautiful thing to watch. I know that's some people may say that's not how basketball is played, that that depreciates the value of real basketball or whatever, but everybody likes a different aspect of basketball, and that was one of the reasons I never played basketball and for my high school or for my middle school. It was always boxing, wrestling, and football. But when I did play basketball, I played a lot of it outside, like just pick up basketball, and I never knew it was that physical. And then I just started to fall in love with playing the game of basketball because I was always a big kid, and I would always just hit the post, and I would bully people in the post, and oh, it was so much fun. And Ben Simmons brings that aspect of being able to bully somebody on the defensive side, but to a smaller position like the point guards, the small forwards.
Yeah, and I can agree with all that. I have my little thoughts on Ben Simmons. Being a Jazz
Yeah.
fan, Donovan Mitchell. Ben Simmons winning Rookie of the Year over Donovan Mitchell, even though Ben Simmons played, a few games the year before and then got hurt and sat out and then still was contender for Rookie Year, which, that's a whole nother story. But the way he kind of presented himself during that was kind of being very cocky towards it. Which technically I feel like he wasn't a rookie, so that's my personal opinion with him. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think working in the healthcare and everything like that, there there is a lot. People say it says injuries where they fake. Was he didn't want to be there? What was it? I mean, it's hard to say. Working in athletics, you do have it's a very big mental aspect component that is a part of all this. And these athletes, they know what their body feels like. They know what their body needs to feel like. And sometimes, they just don't feel correctly right, and they feel like they can't do it because they don't feel correctly right like their body should be. And it's hard sometimes for these athletes to kind of get over that little mental block that, hey, I am fine, I'm able to do what I'm doing. So from that, working in athletics, working around athletes, working around injuries, I can see that point. But it's hard to say because, everyone from the outside says, oh, it's, he's trying to dodge, he's trying to do this, he's trying to do that. And, maybe it is, maybe it's just his body. I mean, I worked track and field forever, they have a tight hamstring, they're considering themselves 60% instead of the 100, but it's because their hamstring is the main thing they use while they're running. I think it's, no different than just this, there's athletes go through these injuries and they're not able to fully understand, sometimes it's just that mental part that they're like, oh, I can't do it. But, they're going through, they're testing everything, they're positive, and, we're getting a lot into that mental health aspect, is starting to become a lot bigger and bigger. But, for him, he's still going for all the backlash he's gotten and stuff like that. He can still continues his career. I know it hasn't been anything that he's been wanting to do, but he's definitely been leading up to all that talk. He's still been backing it up when he does play. He has his good games, bad games. I just think he's kind of one of those players sometimes that the media isn't talking about as much because he's just not been around, and the media wants to kind of move on from others. I mean, move on to someone else. I mean, you got, like I said, Dylan Brooks now is kind of the big talk and will continue to be the big talk for a while. I think it's just the media kind of got sick of talking about Ben Simmons, and so they moved on to find someone else to talk about because they had nothing else to talk about. And I feel like that's what the media is, They always want to kind of, being around sports media is they kind of sometimes always want to pick up. The reporters are always trying to find the bad stuff to talk about, not the good stuff. And, unless you are a player like LeBron, Steph Curry, stuff like that, you're going to get talked about. Giannis, you're always going to get talked about whether you're doing good or bad stuff. And it's going to be from one extent to the bad extent. But, there's a lot of these players, like Ben Simmons, where it just became a negative, commentary, and he was never able to fully get past that because the narrative that was set for him was so low. But again, you get those people, that LeBron, he does something great and it's, oh, LeBron, and then he has a bad game. It's like, well, LeBron was off this game, we'll move on. Like, if it would have been, someone else, had a good game and then had a bad game, oh, yeah, yep, they're not going to talk about the good game, they're just going to talk about the bad game 90% of the time. And I think that's just the way kind of society is, and will kind of continue to be, unfortunately. But it'll be, maybe he'll get another shot. The Nets kind of completely demolished after, KD and Kyrie got traded. So, they got some young core. Maybe, Ben Simmons will start to kind of be able to come back to himself. But, sometimes there's just those injury aspects too that derail players' careers. Greg Oden's a great example, was the number one pick, was supposed to be the, one of the up and coming, and completely fell off. I mean, you had Andrew Wiggins, was supposed to be one of the up and coming. I wouldn't say he fell off, but he's not as good as everyone expected, because him and, Jabari Parker were supposed to be the next two LeBrons. And, there's nowhere, they have not got to that level, and I don't think they'll, at this point in time, they're never going to get to that level, in my opinion. But again, it's just, these narratives are brought up, and, sometimes injuries can kind of derail these careers, which is unfortunate. I think is between negative comments and injuries kind of derailed Ben Simmons, and I think that's why he's not getting talked about anymore, because they don't have any negative things to say anymore because he's not really playing. So, and also too, the Nets, and everything like that aren't as good as they were. Now KD and Kyrie's gone. A lot of the talk about the Nets is gone. Because why are we going to talk about him if KD and Kyrie aren't there anymore?
Yep.
So I think it's a lot of that too. Is there's been a lot of light shone off him because he was in two big markets. Philadelphia then got traded, a superstar with James Harden to the Nets, and then now it's like, okay, well, he hasn't been on Philadelphia for the last couple of years. Oh, and now the Nets team isn't what they used to be, so we're not going to talk about him. At least that is my personal opinion, and I think that would be kind of how, unfortunately, I don't think there's any way he is going to get back into the media light unless he starts playing to becoming the star player of the Nets, which unfortunately I don't see happening.
Okay.
But I think that's it for this episode of Talking Sports. Like I said, we talked a lot about. We did our first Poeltl. We did a lot of NBA. Talked about Jimmy Butler. Talked about Giannis, Dylan Brooks, Ben Simmons. But yeah, let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on things we discussed. We're looking forward to doing more stuff here in the future, like we've talked about. We're getting some ideas. We're eventually maybe going to do like a jersey collection episode, maybe even a sports card episode or near future. If you have any comments of what you want to do or what you think we should do in the future, write them down in those comments. We'll look into those, see if we can kind of make those reality for you guys. Do you have anything else to say to our lovely viewers, Mirf?
I do not. I just wanted to ask you, did you want to do that football Wordle?
Tonight, I think we'll wait for football Wordle. We'll do that when we do our next football episode. We'll kind of keep the Wordles based off of the episode we're doing. I think that'll be a good idea.
All right. Well, I mean, other than that, we also have a video game one that we're going to be talking about Madden, a little bit about 2K, and maybe even some Warzone in the near future. We don't have anything set for that, but other than that, just stay safe. We'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, we appreciate all you tuning in, showing the love and support. You guys make it kind of worth it. And, we'll look forward to seeing you guys in next episode. Everyone have a fantastic rest of your